So welcome. I'm Tim Van Norman, in case you haven't been in 8 other sessions with me this week. And I'm instructional technologist here at Irvine Valley College. That said, beside me is Rachel Fleming, our new OER librarian. And so wanted to do a presentation with both of us because OER is its own part, and we're going to get into that. But OER uses a whole lot of technology, and just in the last couple of months, we've added stuff to Canvas and stuff like that to really make OER possible and work really well here on campus. That said, Rachel has been an instrumental part of that, and I really want to make sure that she's introduced to the campus. And so please, questions in the chat, et cetera, as we go through, but we're going to take a look at how OER, a little bit about OER, and then specifically stuff having to do with IVC. So that said, I'm going to introduce a little bit, then we'll talk about several different things having to do with ZTC and OER, get into LibreText, and then we'll talk about how to install it in Canvas. So that said, if you remember back a little while ago, I've talked about this being something that I've really been interested in: free textbooks, low-cost textbooks, no-cost textbooks. Especially when I realized that my son, when he came here, some of his classes, he paid more for the textbook than he did for the teacher. And I'm sorry, but I thought that the teachers were supposed to be more valuable. In fact, I think you guys are. We are. I'm now a teacher, not here, but at Cypress College. And so I love the concept of books being able to take the book with them, but I really like the concept of valuing what's important. And honestly, I think it's what you guys provide that's much more important than the book, especially because a lot of times the students really don't read as much as they think as much as they might not admit it or we want them to. So that's part of what's going on and part of why, to me, this is something that, even though technologically I just make it work, I wanted to definitely introduce this with Rachel. So this is a great way to be involved and to make things happen here on campus. And as Beatrice, I see her smiling face here, has learned over the last couple of months, this is a really neat project to work on. So that said.
Oh, cool, that's me. All right, folks. So since most of you know a lot about OER, I'll burn through some of the slides, but the big picture for everything that we're doing, we're moving towards ZTC degrees. So we've got Leonard, Beatrice, and Ken here. They're all working towards a math and a Spanish ZTC degree. This is the ultimate goal. We want students to be able to come in, get a full 60-unit degree without paying anything for textbooks. Does lead to greater student equity and success. Ultimately, OER leads to greater faculty flexibility and autonomy. And then the two really big picture when it comes to OER: democratization of higher education and education as a human right. And this is what we're going to go into just a little bit here. So first, we have true cost of textbooks. So if we have a $100 textbook, and the reality is they're actually more like the average is $120 now, 4 courses for a student, $400 per student, we're looking at $4 million per semester for our 10,000 FTES. That's $8 million a year in textbooks. It's just an unsustainable cost, to be quite honest. Now, I have had people say, well, I only have a low-cost textbook. And I have students say, why can't we just buy the library, buy more low-cost textbooks? So say a student has 4 courses and 3 of them are 100% OER, and they only have one $40 textbook. It's a low-cost textbook. They only have to pay for one. We have 15,000 students. We actually have more than that. But 15,000 students, that one low-cost textbook is $600,000 per semester, $1.2 million a year for one textbook. So the reality is it's unsustainable in a cost. But here's the reality also. I don't want to just shift the cost and the burden to the labor on faculty. That's not what we're trying to do here. OER is the new solution in the digital age where information is free. So instead, the conversation is, how do we pay subject experts, instructional faculty, for your subject expertise to curate the content? So that's what we're doing right now. Right now, the state of California invested $115 million into the California Community College system. This is our current breakdown: $5K for an OER remix textbook, $5K for ancillaries, $10K for a full OER course. Now, information is free, but the labor required to curate this information and aggregate this information should be competitively compensated. It is not part of our faculty contract, and it can be a ton of work. Now, the reality is the reason we're talking about LibreText, it expedites the whole process. Something that could take 300 hours to build from scratch, we can do in 3 days with LibreText. So if you're interested in this, the OER work group is meeting every Monday, and we're going to talk about, do we want to standardize a stipend model? Do we want to advocate for reassign time? So come and join the conversation if you'd like. Mondays from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. And I have a slide for it later. Yes. So just as a review, in case some of y'all, I feel like all y'all here know, but OER is free, open, shareable, flexible, customizable instructional materials. These can be used for teaching, research, learning. Anyone can use and edit. Almost all of them have a Creative Commons license or a public domain. And the whole point is we're releasing the intellectual property so that anyone can reuse. That's why we're assigning the high price tags to this curated content, because we're asking you all to give up your intellectual property for free use. If you ever ask, what is an OER? Like if you're looking at something and you're like, is this an OER or not? You have the 5 Rs: retain, reuse, revise, remix, and redistribute. If it has these and it's under a Creative Commons license, it's probably an OER. Oop, yeah, there we go. So another term that we use regularly is OER deliverable. So we hear all the time, aren't OERs just textbooks? And absolutely they can be, but they are also so much more than a textbook. It can be a textbook, it can be a full course, it can be homework systems, which is, again, LibreText has a homework system that's interactive. We have lesson plans, videos, tests. It can be any or all of these things. What we're talking about in the OER work group is how do we itemize these things so that faculty can get paid for what they choose to curate, but they get to choose what they want to release their intellectual property on. So OER versus ZTC, just to make sure we're all on the same page. ZTC is the umbrella term. This is what students care about. Students don't care about licensing. They don't care about intellectual property. They care about costs to them. So the whole point of ZTC is it's zero cost for students. They don't pay anything for materials. So that's the umbrella term we use, whether you're using OER or ZTC materials. The term we use for students is ZTC. This can be materials that are proprietary or open, doesn't matter. It is not as sustainable if it is a ZTC. So for instance, Adobe Educational Exchange has ZTC resources. They're free to use, but at any moment, Adobe could lock those up. And there's nothing we could do about that. Whereas at OER, we can always have access to repurpose it. OER, no cost to students also, usually a subset of ZTC, always more sustainable because we have the ability to repurpose it, almost always under a Creative Commons license or public domain, okay? So we're gonna go through this really quick because I wanna make sure we get to the LibreText part, but is OER a fad or a global movement? So the reality is that OER has been around for about 70 years. In 1946, 70 something years ago, 67 years ago, Ken, what's the math on that? How many years ago is that? You're a math guy.
Almost 80.
It's a long time. It's over 70 years. There we go. Is it almost 80 now? Oh my God, I'm getting old.
79.
79 years. Okay, Ken says it's 79 years. So the University of South Africa created the distance education program. So from there in 48, we have the declaration, education is a human right. Then we have the UK, they actually started doing distribution. And then we actually have free software that starts coming about in 83. And then in 91, this is when we really have the internet. This is when we finally have the infrastructure to do global communication and global sharing. So from here, we have Merlot. We have free software that is starting to be rebranded as open source. We start having open publications. And then in 2000, we have MIT that does open courseware. And then in 2001, this is where we have the Creative Commons license. Now, this is an international license. Almost all OER and every OER you create will be under a Creative Commons license. This is an international license. It means even if America falls tomorrow, the license still holds. So the whole point of it is that we can share it. There's a couple different versions. There's a lot of different versions. So depending on how you want your work used, you get to specify that. It was a really, really big movement. And then in 2002, we actually have the term OER from UNESCO. So then in 2008, this is where things really started amping up. So often y'all hear me say things like, OER has been really studied heavily for the last 20 years or so. That's because a lot of this stuff really started taking momentum in about 2005, 2007. And then in 2008, we have educators, governments, school boards, colleges, universities that all got together and basically said, OER is the solution to predatory publishers. It's a solution to the fact that we believe education is a human right for all. How do we democratize education? So 2008 is when this really truly started in earnest. And from here, we have ChemWiki. This is where LibreText came from. So UC Davis professor Delmar Larsen, Dr. Delmar Larsen, he created this. LibreText is built by faculty, for faculty. It is a massive OER platform with multiple tools, all in one location. So instead of having to build OER in 300 hours in a Word document, you can do it in these different platforms. And once you learn the software, it expedites it exponentially. And on top of that, you have a living document that's easily populated to any Canvas source. And it became a very, very powerful tool. So from there, in 2012, we have the OER project. Within 10 years, we have over 20,000 students and a million students and 20,000 teachers that are involved in this. And then suddenly we started talking about sustainability goals. We had over 100 countries start participating. And then in 2018, this is when California did the largest bet ever in the history of the world on OER. It invested $115 million into OER, and that's where a lot of our funding is coming from right now. So what does the research say, in case you're interested? We have qualitative, quantitative, mixed methods, and 20-year-long longitudinal studies. Positives are across the board. Higher student completion and success rates, higher student engagement and perception of student engagement, closes achievement gaps, lower dropout rates. The negatives, pretty across the board, students want the option to print. Whether you're using a paid textbook or an OER, students want the ability to print. One of the reasons I love LibreText, there are multiple print options for students. The second negative is faculty's perception of quality and comprehensiveness. This hits on something called the usability aesthetics paradox. This is found in advertising and marketing and information science. It basically says that if we think something is really pretty and packaged well, we perceive it as being more credible, which isn't necessarily true, but it's one of our challenges that we overcome. So when we talk about OER challenges, we have two misconceptions. I hear all the time, I don't have time to write a course from scratch. That's great. The reality is most faculty don't write things from scratch anymore. What we do is we do remixing and adapting, where we basically pull from multiple other sources, and that's what the LibreText software allows you to do. The second one is materials are out of date. And this one is kind of a mixed bag. If you're pulling from randomly on the internet, some of it's absolutely going to be out of date. But the stuff that's being used is actually a living document, and it is more up to date than the paid publisher materials. And if you use LibreText, you're going to have the ability to update as needed whenever you need. For certain things like math and Spanish, pretty consistent, not a lot of updates. If you're teaching social media, you're actually going to need to update that regularly, so a paid publisher textbook is actually going to be more outdated. Criticisms, accessibility, same as publisher and OER. One of the reasons I love LibreText, they have an extremely high accessibility standard. Everything is accessible. They will not even compromise on their aesthetics because they have such a high accessibility standard. Two, people say materials are incomplete and must be aggregated from multiple sources. Absolutely, but personally, I don't think this is a negative. This leads to something called integrative authorship. This is where you have diverse voices from different places coming together to create a more comprehensive way of teaching. And then lastly, they can be hard to find. And absolutely they can. That's why IVC hired me. I am here. If you ever need help, I'm happy to sit with you. I'll go to your office. You can come to my office. We can do a Zoom. I am here to sit with you as much as you need to walk you through this process. So, seems complicated. I don't have the time. That's why we have the option of using LibreText. All the tools, one platform, and it can expedite the whole process from start to finish. Now, Beatrice can attest, it took her a while to find the different resources she wanted. We put them together in an OER map, but I want to say it took about an hour for her to remix it over Christmas break to actually put it together so that now that she has the ability to edit it. And this is the power of LibreText. So what is LibreText? It's an OER platform, free to use and build, created by faculty for faculty, and it is a massive set of tools. So you're going to open it up. It's a massive website. And think of it like each of those boxes is a separate tool. You do not have to use them all. You can create, remix, update, store, and share. It is by far the most powerful and versatile tool currently on the market for OER. Works with academic freedom to give educators the ability to really store with full autonomy, and again, as living documents. And again, I'd like to bring Dr. Delmar Larson here in person to actually do workshops with y'all if that's something that's interested specifically for math, STEM, and languages. He could actually come and in 3 days, we could build entire courses using LibreText. So how do you actually get started if you want to play around with it? You log into libretext.org, you get verified as an instructor. It'll give you the prompts. When it asks for a bio, you can just put a link to where you're listed in the directory at IBC, and you'll be verified within 2 days. Where Tim and I are gonna go over 4 of the main tools that we have in LibreText. The Commons, which is an OER library. The Conductor, which is a built-in remixing system. Adapt, which is a homework system. And Studio H5P, which honestly, I'm still learning, and Tim's more of the expert in. So again, Tim and I are here to guide you in this. I am happy to sit with you as many times as you want. If you want me to sit with you every week, you want a standing appointment, we can do that. I am here to help support you in this work. I love doing this work. And what I have found is that a lot of faculty, they're overwhelmed by the software, but once they get used to it, they realize how easy it is. All of a sudden they're like, oh, Rachel, I don't need you anymore, I'm good. That took 10 minutes rather than the 20 hours that I thought it was going to. And it can really, really expedite your workflows. So first one, we have the LibreText Commons. This is a collection of over 2,500 different OER textbooks that you can browse. We now have our own IBC Commons. This is where, say you have a department and they already use OpenStax. And you're like, Rachel, I don't need LibreText because, you know, so-and-so already uses OpenStax. We can start collecting them together into departmental collections for you. So say you have adjuncts who come in, you basically can have your own department collection. This is a place where you can find books to use as is, but I like to think of it mainly as a place where you find a lot of raw clay. You find a whole bunch of different things that you like. We make what we call an OER map, or it's basically a really detailed table of contents. It can perfectly match your current Canvas course. So you could open up your current Canvas course and literally just make a table of contents on module 1, chapter 1, module 2, chapter 2. Make a table of contents, and then you just start surfing the Commons, and you'll find different content. Put that into your table of contents, and once you have a detailed map, we take it to the remixer. This is the second tool. The Conductor, or the remixer, is by far the most powerful tool. There is no other tool that does this currently on the market. It allows you to mix and match from any of those 2,500 resources at the page level, the chapter level, or the book level. You can just click and drag. So you can take an entire book. I did one where it was over 40 different books. We clicked and dragged it together based on the table of contents. 25 minutes. We had a remixed textbook. We publish it. You have ability to edit every single page. Easy breezy cover girl. Something that could have taken you 300 hours to curate in a Word document, you can literally do in a couple hours with LibreText. So, second tool is Adapt. If you've ever used paid platforms like Connect or interactive homework assignments, that's what Adapt is. It is a massive system. It is free for California students because California basically paid Dr. Delmar to build this. He uses it in chemistry and math specifically. It is hard in the STEM and the languages right now. That's where a whole bunch of content exists. And Beatrice and Carla in Spanish are by far becoming the experts here so far at Adapt. And Tim has been amazing at helping us learn. I'm even learning from Tim on how we can really make sure we integrate it perfectly and seamlessly into Canvas. So this is a great one. It's a really, really powerful tool. And then we have, Tim's gonna talk about H5P, which I didn't even know what it was.
So you may or may not have looked at H5P in the past. It is a tool that allows you to build interactive assignments or material for your class, and in a lot of different ways. And so H5P has been around for a long time. It is HTML5, and so it's built in that using that tool. But LibreText is actually built in that capability into LibreText. So it's easy to use, creates interactive content like quizzes, videos, games, etc., and fully integrates with LibreText and Canvas. We looked at the potential of putting in an H5P server here because it would have required us to do a server. I would rather actually use this instead because this is a lot more useful. And we don't have to deal with maintaining the hardware and stuff like that here. So everybody feel like you just drank from a fire hose?
I'm so sorry.
Rachel talks really, really fast.
Dang it.
So slow it down a minute.
No, you were worried about having time. Now you got lots of time.
So So slowing down for a minute, LibreText, you can install in Canvas directly. So everything is configured for you, just like it would be for any publisher. Basically, you download the live textbook pages. You update the textbook in LibreText. And in LibreText itself, you specify that you want to integrate with Canvas, and then you make the connection. It's pretty simple. When you click the import into LMS, it connects in and you're good to go. So it's really, really fast, really integrated, just like most of our publishers. So when a student clicks on assignment, they go right into LibreText and work on that assignment. They don't have to log into LibreText or something like that. When they submit the assignment, the grade comes back into Canvas, again, just like any other publisher, or I should say most of our publishers. There's a couple that don't do this. So I really like that this is built in and that you have the ability to create your own course and remix it the way you want. When you're in the remixer stage, can you edit text at the page level? You can edit text at the page level. One of the other nice things about the remixer is that, let's say you take chapter 3 from one book and you move it to chapter 5 in your book, it will automatically update everything and say that it's chapter 5 now. So you don't have images that say chapter 3, but they're in chapter 5. So it's things like that that are part of the remixer that make it so that I really like what this tool can do. And therefore, really want to help implement a lot of these things. So when you're installing it into Canvas, there's the IMSCC file. I know we don't deal with IMSCC files here. That's okay. It literally is a file that when you, just like every semester, you go in and you copy your course, import it from your old course. It's in that same field, the same screen. You just load an IMSCC file and it embeds everything in for you. So it becomes very, very easy. Then you click and drag everything, the links to where you want them, and it's in place for you. And this is what a page would look like in Canvas. Notice that it has the little bar around the page. That is because it is using a frame, an iframe. So it's just like if you have a link to an article or something like that. This looks the same. You can click on load in a new page and it'll load in a new page instead, but this is built into Canvas, the way you're looking at it. So what if you want to look at OER? I'm gonna turn this back over to Rachel.
And I'll try to talk slower, I promise. So the OER work group is meeting twice a month, 3:30 to 4:30, starting on the 27th. We decided to skip the second, because it's the first day of instruction. So if you would like to come, you can come in any capacity. If you can't come every time, but you want to come once in a blue moon, come on and come once in a while. The question, when you say live textbook, does that mean that any edits you make automatically populate to Canvas? This is one of my favorite things about this, and I tested it because Tim and I were concerned. We wanted to make sure. So once you publish it on LibreText, that becomes your living document. Anytime you make edits to that, it's already live. Anybody who has that downloaded anywhere in the world, it will automatically update it because it's actually live links. So the IMSCC files are basically like embedded live links to each and every individual page. So yeah, it's pretty cool. And the automatic numbering thing is one of my favorite things in the remixer, Christina, because literally you're gonna use the book and then be like, dang it, I actually feel like this section should be above this section, or maybe I need to add in a page here. And having to go back in and change all the numbers manually, as someone who's done that and built books in Word documents or built books in Canvas, it is such a pain. This is literally, you click and drag and you watch all the numbers change. It's like magic. It's my favorite tool ever. So if you're interested in trying this, we can try, I can even do a demo because we have time, but I want you to know that you can come to choose to participate. We are going to be talking about things like, how do we at IVC want to take ownership of OER? Because the reality is OER is only sustainable and it's only effective if instructional faculty say, this is how we want it. This is how we deserve to get paid for it. We deserve reassigned time for it. we need to know how we as a collective want this to be. And then long-term, we need to have things like maybe we take a tiered stipend model to the academic senate. Maybe we have these different things that we're trying to standardize to make sure that all faculty are protected if they want to do this work. So if you're interested in having conversations about that, please come. If you can't come, you're welcome to send me a note and I can add it to the agenda even if you can't come. So if you want to look into it also, like I said, we have a lot of money right now. We have, and I didn't even tell Beatrice, I don't even know if you know this, the state has given an additional $320,000. So even if math and Spanish, if we don't get, because we haven't heard yet for the ones that we applied for, the grants, we have $320,000 that we have to sunset in a year and a half. On top of that, right now in an account ready to burn, we've got 149K. It can only be used for OER and we cannot pay you to adopt. So this is one of the clarifications that we get sometimes. People think, can't you just pay me because I'm using OpenStax? Just like Cengage can't pay you to adopt their Cengage textbook, we cannot pay you to adopt an OpenStax textbook. But I can pay you, we can pay you for remixing or curating an OpenStax into a slightly different way, adding in a little content of your own. And something that there's a lot of interest for this, we can do an end of the semester work intensive where we pay you to show up. We bring Dr. Delmar Larson down here from UC Davis. He can actually teach you all the real nuances of Adapt and the Remixer, and you can walk away with a fully accessible OER course in 3 days. If this is something that y'all are interested in, I did one of these in the Central Valley and it was highly effective. It would have to be probably around the 27th through 29th. We're just brainstorming right now. So of May. May, sorry, oh my God, no, not January. Of May 27th. If that's something that we're interested in, it would take some coordination. Like if people want PD hours instead of money, we could do that as well. So this is something that like Tim's been talking about, how we can help you make it accessible and OER basically in 3 days. It's been pretty fun. I've seen it. It would have to be in person so that you guys could actually be here to basically do Pain Point with the software. But maybe we could do it hybrid. I don't know. Something we could talk about. So let me know if you're interested in that. All right, so questions, or if you guys want to do a demo, we could do that because we've got like 25 minutes. And there's not very many of y'all, so if you have questions or you want to try it out.
You want a demo how to
Yeah.
export a book that's already there and add a
Absolutely.
chapter to it?
Yeah, do you want to do it? It's really easy. So, and if you have a sandbox ready, we can just walk through it. I have a whole bunch of sandbox on mine. I overwhelmed the English department. They had me come to a writing community of practice. And I didn't start with all the stuff you all got, with all the history of OER, and I just dove right into the software and I was so excited and it was information overload to the extreme. And I felt terrible. It was nuts. I need to learn to talk slower though. I'm gonna be more like Tim. I'm gonna be calm and together. All right, any other questions?
Leonard said a question, but I forgot what it was. I saw his name pop up.
Oh. Can you do a demo? Absolutely, we'll do a demo. Okay.
This is Christina. I have a question.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Oh, where's my microphone? There it is. So when you talk about that live textbook, how does that work if I remix something and it's a LibreText? I'm using it in my course. Somebody else adapts it, but maybe I decide, oh, wait, I want to change the order of some units or chapters, but they don't. I mean, do we each have our own copy or
Yep.
meaning, am I messing up somebody else's
No,
based
so
on the book and then, oops, now it's all different. What happened? How does that work?
So this is a great question, Christina. Basically what happens when you use the remixer, you're pulling in somebody else's content, right? You pull it in, we then publish it. When you first do that, it's still live on theirs. So if for some reason they update something, it would update yours. However, there's an option, it's called forking, F-O-R-K-I-N-G. When you fork each page, you're basically making your own copy of every single page. It's still giving credit to them, all the links are still live, but you've basically done a copy and paste of every single page of the entire textbook, and it's yours now. So if you have an OpenStax that you really like, we will copy and paste basically the entire OpenStax using the remixer, and literally it's a click and drag, and I'll show you how. And then literally you publish it, you fork it, you own it. So when you update it, only if you have other people in your department. So for instance, say Beatrice wants everyone in Spanish to use the same one. They've all agreed, we're gonna use the exact same textbook. And Beatrice and Carla decide that they wanna make a couple edits. When they make those edits on theirs, If every single adjunct in the Spanish department has the same LibreText downloaded, it will automatically make those updates in every single one. However, if say one of those adjuncts then goes and teaches at a different college, they could make a copy of it, make it their own, and then they could make whatever edits they wanted to it, and it wouldn't affect Beatrice's. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So then even if I taught it one way this semester and then someone who teaches it next semester goes, oh, I want to change the order of a couple of things, and they have the prerogative of making their own copy, tweaking it what fits their teaching style, and they're not locked into my order or whatever.
Exactly, yes. So
okay.
the whole point of all of this is like, it's 100% customizable. So if people come to me and say, hey, Rachel, we have 100 faculty, what's the one way to do OER? There isn't one way. There's going to be 100 ways. Every single teacher is unique in their curriculum and the way that they teach. And what I love about LibreText is it really gives full customizable autonomy for every single faculty while allowing you all to use shared resources and shared platforms so you're not having to reinvent the wheel every time. Because reinventing the wheel when we're talking about pretty standard content means that we're having a lot of extra labor that doesn't need to happen. So that's the kind of part that I love about this. So ideally, the easiest way to do it is I train the head of each department, and then you all can basically go back to your departments and you can have every single person know exactly how they want to do it. So that's why like interactive workshops could be really helpful to basically train a whole bunch of people on the software, because everybody's going to use it slightly differently. There isn't like a one size fits all. But yeah, so here, let's first look at just a book. So we're going to look at a book. If you want to download a book, so I just typed in math. This is Mathematical Methods in Chemistry, okay? If you want to read it as is, you just hit read online, okay? This is what all the textbooks look like. Now I've had people say, Rachel, the interface is ugly. It's not real pretty, but that's because it's 100% accessible. Dr. Delmar Larson and his team have advocated that they will never, ever compromise on accessibility. So some of the things you're going to look at it and you're going to say, oh, it could be prettier. Yeah, it probably could be, but it might not be as accessible. So this is the format that they're all going to be. If you see a parentheses next to it, that means it's a book. Right now we're looking at one single book. So each of these is a chapter, okay? And you will have your own chapters like this. So say we wanted to download the entire book, we could, or we could download just a chapter. Up here in this bar, this is where you can see where you've come from, okay? So say we go back to the book and you want to download the book and put it into Canvas. Literally, you just go to downloads, import into LMS, okay? And it downloads an IMSCC file. Am I allowed to do that? Yeah. Do you want me to put it in a specific file? This is Tim's computer. There we go. And then literally we're going to open up a Canvas course. And then literally you go to the home screen. And then you go to import existing content. And then select one and hit the Canvas course export package. And then choose the file. And you could label it whatever you wanted if you know you had specific needs.
Emptiest download folder I've ever seen in my life.
Say what?
Nothing in your downloads folder, Tim.
And you hit
Because I
import.
need
Oh, wait,
to
hit
download
all,
it right where I want it.
hit all content just in case. And then hit
See right there.
and then you hit download. So, and literally sometimes it takes a minute. So right now, see how it's saying it's running. If it's a really big book, it can take up to 3 to 4 minutes. If it's not, it'll be really, really quick. It's completed. And then you go to your module sections. And you'll see it in the modules. So we already have one. See, it says before we begin. And so whatever modules you have in here, it'll already have. And then you can click and drag. So say for some reason you wanted to add in, I know a lot of faculty, the way they use this, they feel like their students aren't actually reading the textbook. So they add in knowledge checks after each section here. So like, because you can click and drag. So like say like, I actually want to put this in a different section. It's literally just a click and drag, okay? And then if you want to add in a test underneath it, oh my God, after they read it, this is a way that you could make sure that your students are having to read it. I have a art faculty in the Central Valley. She put unlimited tests, quizzes at the end of each one. They could take it unlimited amount of times. She said her student engagement as well as her student understanding of the content increased 3-fold in a single semester. And it was just because she thinks that they were actually reading the content because she was making it required before they could move on. So that's as easy as it is. If you click on it right here, it's going to take you directly to it and you can read it right here in the course. So that's why it's live. So like if you went to edit this live, you're actually reading her book live right here in it. Does that make sense as far as the download goes? Maybe? Kind of? Yes. Awesome. So it's not a hard thing to integrate. The biggest challenge I found for a lot of faculty is you're not building in Canvas, which is scary for a lot of people because we love Canvas. We're comfortable with Canvas. The reason we encourage LibreText, we go back to LibreText, they have print options. So right here, you can have the entire book as a PDF if you want to print it. There's also often, let's see, some of them don't have it, but a lot of them have, for students who do have funding and want to buy it, you can buy this book at cost for $12. So LibreText is a printing service. They don't charge for anything. It's just for the paper, the printing, and the shipping. So if you have a student who really wants physical copies, say we have EOPS and DOPS, and they're like, hey, for this specific subject, we need physical copies, we can buy them real cheap, basically, all the way through there. As well as people can buy, they can download individual chapters. So say a student doesn't want to print the entire thing. They just want to print just this section right here because they're nervous about something. Right? You can print just this page. So LibreText has made it so you can print by page, by chapter, or by book, or you can actually just buy an actual bound copy, or you can read it directly in Canvas. Almost all students are reading it directly in Canvas, but you do have those students who want a print copy. So that's the other option there. And then over here, if you want to peer review it, so say you have an entire department that's going to use your book and you'd like feedback, or you're concerned that one of your faculty created something and for whatever reason, you know, you guys want to talk about I remember in math, there was some issue with a hypothesis and there were 3 different ways to teach it. You can have peer review. So when we talk about quality control and quality in open education resources, we're actually starting to develop open peer review, which is really exciting because the peer review process within research right now is often proprietary. It's like Oxford English journals. We don't know how many doctors they're showing those papers to before they get the label of peer review. Open access is actually starting to create open peer review processes, which is a really exciting thing. We're just starting, but it's a pretty fun process. So does that explain that part of it? Can we try the remixer? You guys want to see the remixer? Maybe? Yeah?
Sure.
All right, and I'm logged in as you? All right, so the remixer is always going to be a little overwhelming. Let me find here. Whenever you don't know where you're going, go to this little rocket in the corner. And just know, when it comes to new software, you're always going to get overwhelmed. You're going to hit pain points. And because this is a massive platform with multiple tools, every single one of these boxes is a different tool. We didn't even cover all of them. It's very easy to get overwhelmed by the software. So I recommend just starting with Conductor or just starting with Adapt. Start with one of the two. And so say we want to go to the Conductor page. Can I start a new book for you? Do you mind? Okay.
Please.
So the way that you'd actually do it, I have it in 15 minutes. Do you guys want me to actually create a book? You guys can see how we do it? Yeah? Okay. This is what it'll look like once you're a verified instructor, which only takes literally 24 to 48 hours. It's really, really quick.
Took a day.
Yeah. Once you're there, you're going to go into Conductor and you're going to create a project. For every one of your courses, create a project. So say we want to call it Library 101, right? Because I'm in the library. Keep it as private unless you have some reason to not, unless you're working with like a massive group of people in your department. Okay. Now you have a project page. This is basically what we call like a project management page. This is where everything is going to be. You could add in other team members here. So right here, if I wanted to add Beatrice to this project so that she has the ability to edit it, if you want to add in other peer review timelines where they're just going to be looking for it, this is where you'd add that in. So we're going to do create a book. And this is where you have to choose what library your book is going to reside in. I recommend being really careful about this. This is one of the few things that they don't let you change after the fact. And because this was built by a STEM chemistry faculty, all of the STEM have their own individual libraries, but almost everything else got roped into humanities. Because it was built by Dr. Delmar Larson, who's a chemistry guy. So a lot of the sciences have their own libraries, but if not, you're probably going to find it in the humanities. Okay? And then call it whatever you want. If you want to call it the title of, where would anthropology book go? It would probably go in humanities. The easiest way to check would be to just go to Google and type in anthropology LibreText and see what library it brings up. Because in the upper corner, here, let me show you really quick here. Okay. In the upper corner, see how right here it says LibreText Chemistry? That means this is residing in the LibreText Chemistry bookshelf. Okay. And you can see all of them, but it's going to reside in one of those bookshelves. So I would just type in, let's just do it together. Google and then type in anthropology LibreText. And without even going to it, you'll see on the side, see it says social sciences? That means that they have anthropology housed in social sciences. So I would choose the social sciences library. However, like I've done like HVAC ones, and that's been a very interesting challenge because technically usually they put it under workforce, but then there's also people who want to put it under engineering. So there's been some very interesting things where sometimes it's going to reside in one or the other. You get to choose that as a subject expert. So let's go back to, and you're going to end up with 100 tabs open, and I'm sorry about that. Here we go. So you choose, let me move the, here we go. You just hit create, and usually it'll take just a minute because this is actually creating a front end of the book, the back end of the book, and a single chapter for you. All here. This is basically your scaffolding. The way I explained it to an HVAC faculty, you are the foundation, the poured foundation. This is the actual frame of the house that we just built, okay? And, okay, if you go to Open Project Link, it's gonna take you to your book. And as of right now, it has, oh, you're always gonna have to sign in. This happens all the time. If you're not signed in, just sign in, because we went to a different library. So we were in the chemistry library and signed in under the chemistry library, but we weren't in humanities. Happens all the time. All right, here's our book. You've got a front matter and you've got one end chapter. And that's it. But you're like, you know what? I want more than that. I want a total of, so you're teaching an 8-week course, you want 8 chapters. Okay. Go back to the project page. And again, this is a lot. Don't expect you to remember all of this. I just want you to see how easy it is. Go to the remixer. All right. This is the remixer tool. Okay. On the right-hand side, this is our library. This is our book. On the left-hand side is all 2,500 books for the entire platform. Everything right here. What you need to know is were they coming from the bookshelves or were they coming from campus bookshelves? So when you look at the books that you're pulling from, and Beatrice has an awesome example, maybe she'd share with you if you reach out, of a table of contents where she pulled from multiple different books and she just had them in a nice Word document. And in the links, it'll tell you whether it's coming from campus bookshelves or bookstore, or campus or bookshelves. And you click on the little plus symbol. We go down to whatever, language and literacy,
Can
okay?
you search in there? You just gotta find it.
You should know, so that's why I would make an OER map ahead of time. But once you're here, you can click and look at any of these. Click on these links and it's automatically gonna take you to it. So if you wanna just browse, you can browse by just clicking on these buttons and looking through things. But say I really like American Renaissance for some reason, and I wanna talk about Henry David Thoreau, I just literally click and drag. Okay, and it automatically drags it in. I wanna talk about Herman Melville, click and drag it in, okay? And it's making chapters for each of these because this is what I've chosen to do it as. But you could then say, I want all of these to be underneath it. You just click and drag it into chapter 1. Now suddenly it's in chapter 1. And you'll notice, see, right now it's chapter 2. When I click and drag it in here, suddenly it's 1.2. It'll automatically renumber it for you, okay? It'll automatically change it, and it's literally just a click and drag. So now we have 2 chapters with 2 sub-chapters. Maybe we have a thing about Emily Dickinson that we're gonna put in chapter 2. Maybe I wanna go to a different book down here on medieval literature. And I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna pull out, I don't know, whatever, this one. And we're gonna make that a chapter. So I just want you guys to see what it looks like. You just click and drag. It's literally just a click and drag. So the easiest, the hardest part and the time that will take you the most time is creating the OER map. You're gonna browse, you're gonna find the things that you like, put those links in a lovely table of contents, and then literally this part will take an hour or less. So say we've got a total of 3 chapters, and then say I'm gonna write a chapter by myself. It's gonna be a blank chapter, so I'm just adding in a couple chapters, okay? And click and drag it down to the bottom. And then say we're gonna call this one Rachel's chapter, because I'm gonna write my own chapter here, because I don't like any of the content that I found, right? Rachel's chapter. Oh. Yeah. You hit save edits. Okay, now we have 7 chapters. We pulled in some content from 2 different sources. We hit save to server. Save to server again. Yes, you have to hit it twice. And you'll notice it's actually saving it. What it's called is called transcluding. This is where it's actually making your book. It's building it for you. Yeah. And if for any of these turn red, it just means that the server connection wasn't good and you need to do it again. This is an extremely powerful tool. People don't understand how intense this is. Now, right here, you could go back, keep revising it if you wanted to go back and revise it, or you go right here to your new text. And ta-da! Now we have 7 chapters, okay? And say we want to go into our whatever chapter that had Emily Dickinson. Oh no, not that one. We didn't put anything in that one. Okay. let's go to, oh, chapter 1, we put stuff in chapter 1, okay? Each chapter now becomes like an index page. So it's going to have, I'm gonna click on this. Only for chapter 1, put in a new top hierarchy, okay? Now we've got our things in here that we pulled. So say you wanna edit this, you don't like the way that they wrote about Thoreau, you wanna change it up. You think whatever, that he's not cool. Right now, this is Christina's question. She said, is it live? See this little option right here? That means it's forked. It hasn't been forked. It's still live on the original author's site. That means that right now, whoever the original author is, if they update this content, it's gonna update mine. But you click this little button right here, hit okay, hit okay again, and now it's yours, okay? See how it went away? You hit edit, and now you can edit any of this content. What's really lovely, see this right here, it says toggle to block level attributions. LibreText does attributions at the paragraph level. So it will still give attribution to whoever the original author was, no matter how many times this gets copy and pasted. You copied it, an adjunct copies it, another full-time copies it. It will still give attribution at the paragraph level, and whatever you've edited will now be attributed to you. So if we add in a chapter here, we add in a paragraph about whatever, okay? It will automatically, you hit save, you can edit it. It's that easy. So instead of having to author an entire book from scratch, you pull from what's out there and then you edit it. It's not plagiarism because all of these are under Creative Commons licenses and allow for this kind of editing. You do not have to do copy and pasting to get signed in for approval. Yeah, so what you do is you go to LibreText.org, we'll do it together, okay? So go to LibreText.org.
You're already logged in.
Yeah. And then you're gonna go to register, right here, log in and register. And then it should, when you go to do it, it should ask you for a bio URL to get verified as an instructor. Does one sign in work for all the tools? Yes, absolutely. It didn't used to. So Adapt used to be a separate thing. They just connected it together. It's all one thing now. Now Adapt is extremely powerful and extremely complex. As of right now, it will forever be free for California students. But if you ever teach outside of California, because it's such a powerful tool, they are charging people outside of California for it. But because the state of California paid for it, it will be free for California students. But it's a very powerful tool. But yes, so log in and register here. And then once you're signed in, everything's available. You ever get confused, go to the Rocket. If you're ever like, I don't know where I am, I have 25 tabs open, go to the Rocket, and that's gonna take you back to the main thing. The two that I use the most are the Conductor and Adapt. And if you're searching for content, there's two different ways to do it. You can do it through the comments. I have found often it's easier to just use Google and use the search term LibreText. So say LibreText, and like, Ken, what's a really specific math term that I could look up, like a page level math term?
Linear transformation.
Linear transformation.
It's an E instead of an I.
That's hilarious. Did I put two I's? I did. And it didn't do spell check for me. There we go. Okay. So when you do it this way, it's going to give it to you at the page level rather than at the book level. So you're not having to scan through and browse through entire books. So you can start with a couple big books. OpenStax is almost always going to give you some base content. The feedback I get a lot of times from OpenStax is that it's about 70 to 80% of the content you need. And it often doesn't give you enough of the homework assignments. It doesn't give you enough examples, but it's a solid base. So a lot of people use OpenStax as a base, and then they find things like this. And they go, you know what? Yeah, I don't feel like it did a good enough job on linear transformation, but maybe this one section right here did, okay? What you do is in your outline that you're creating or an OER map, which I'm happy to help you build. You're gonna see right up here, this is in the bookshelves. It's under linear algebra. It's first course algebra by Cutler. And then you literally are just gonna click and drag that into your remixer tool, and you'll have all of this ready to go. And all of these are live, and they all use, oh my gosh, what's the term that they use for doing equations? It starts with an L. The back end.
LATEX.
I think it is, yeah. Like, is it
Latex.
latex? Okay. So these are all built with latex. If you don't know how to do that, there is something called MathPix that we can get for $4 a month. So say you have like old school PDFs, MathPix will take a picture of it and they'll do the latex for you even. So like, even if you don't know how to do it, we have workarounds. So if you don't have a lot of the digital skills, or if you're scared about the software, basically I'm here to hold your hand through this. I helped two almost 80-year-old faculty do this last year for hardcore books, and it was not a big deal. It becomes easy breezy once you get used to it. So what other questions do we have? And also, that's a large demo. Does it matter which library database, IVC Commons or Creative Commons you pull remix? No. So because you're gonna copy and paste them and fork them anyway to make them your own. The difference is the bookshelves are maintained by LibreText. Those are ones that they said, hey, this is base content. It's fine. The feedback I get regularly is if you want to see what other community colleges around the state are doing, the campus bookshelves have curated content to specific curriculum. Whereas the bookshelves are gonna be a little bit more generic. They're gonna be some of the base. So depending on how you wanna build, do you have a friend who teaches anthropology up in San Francisco and you love their book, that's gonna be in the campus bookshelves and you think that that's really great. You're like, I'm just gonna use theirs, that's gonna be found in campus because it's very specific. Whereas someone else could say, well, their curriculum is completely different than mine. You might wanna go to the bookshelves, which is gonna be a little bit more generic. So that just depends on what you want. I have had some people say that the campus bookshelves leave things out because obviously not everybody teaches the same thing. But the examples are better and the images and graphics are better. Whereas the bookshelves are a little bit more comprehensive, but pretty generic and don't often have all of the exact examples that you want. Which again, you're gonna remix, it's like a puzzle. You're gonna pick and choose whatever you want. The hardest part is basically developing that table of contents and then basically making sure you feel like you have a comprehensive outline. And then when you actually go to remix, it literally, Beatrice, how long did it take us to do it over Christmas break? You remember?
I think it was less than an hour,
Yeah, but how long did it take you to make the
45
outline?
minutes.
How long did the outline take you to build?
The outline really took me a long time. And I think it's so important to get that straight because you want to have the bigger vision. So for Spanish, I had to think Spanish 1, 2, and 3, what content I want for each, and then look at all the different ebooks in Spanish out there to decide. So what worked out well for us is what Rachel mentioned. We chose one from a college that is using already, they curated already, and I used that one as the base, but not everything in there is similar to the style that we teach here. It's like a lot of grammar and we do more vocabulary. So I found 3 other books and I like, for example, there was one book that I like the fact that each chapter, they highlight a Spanish speaking country because our current textbook has that. And we love to keep that as part of our culture information. So from that book, I adopted and remixed those chapters regarding each country. And then in another book, they had more activities that are writing and reading that was lacking in the original one. So it's really the research part that takes the longest. I've been doing it throughout the whole fall semester and finally narrowed down to all the parts that I want in the 4 books that I want. And then the remixing, like, Rachel said, was like really quick. As you have your outline already. So it's just this book, this chapter, pam, 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 pam. And all the numbering got, shuffled to the way that you wanted.
The reality is it's an iterative process. You're going to use it and then you're going to want to change it up a little bit. But yeah, so I didn't expect to do a demo that long, so I'm sorry about that, folks. We are wrapping up. Any last questions before we say goodbye? Awesome. Please email me. I am happy. I sat with Beatrice and Carla multiple times. I am happy to sit with you. You can come to my office. I'll come to your office. We can sit over Zoom. I do reference and instruction 19 hours a week, and the rest of my time, I am here for my fellow faculty to do this work. I'm excited about it. I love doing it, and I'm happy to walk you through it. So thanks for coming. Yeah. All right, then.
Thank you.
All right.
Rachel, I thought it renumbers them automatically. Why do I get 2 chapter 1s in here?
So let's look at your remixer,
Oh,
because it could be in the remixer.
it could be, I don't know what I'm doing. I was just.
You're practicing. That's the whole point.
I was doing what you're doing. I spent all the break looking for a good book to start remixing.
Yes.
I've already got it, and now I just need to delete the extra